Good afternoon, everyone. Today we will continue with the postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. Last class, as we discussed two laws of chemical combination. The first law is law of conservation of mass, and the second law is law of definite proportion and constant composition. So, these laws given by Antony Lavoisier and Joseph Proust lacked scientific explanation. So John Dalton in the year 1808 picked up the ideas from these two laws and modified these laws and named gave a new theory which was named as Dalton's atomic theory. His theory was based on the laws of chemical combination only, and he provided the satisfactory explanation for the law of conservation of mass and law of definite proportion. We will see later that though Dalton's atomic theory gave powerful initiation to the scientists to study about the structure of matter in 19th century, but we will see that Dalton's atomic theory still have so many limitations and demerits, which was again modified by different scientists in 20th century like J.J. Thomson, Lord Rutherford, Niels Bohr and other many more who revolutionized the knowledge about the structure of atoms. So we will see first what were the postulates of Dalton's atomic theory. Postulates means you should know it is the assumptions made by the Daltons for the to study the structure of atoms. So we can just say what are the postulates or assumptions of Dalton's atomic theory. So first assumption was same as the laws. Matter is made up of extremely small indivisible particle called atoms. So according to Dalton also, atom was very tiny particle of any substance which take part in the chemical reaction. What was the second assumption or postulates? Second was atoms of element are identical in all respects, that is size, shape, mass, etc. Okay? Let's say if you have hydrogen element, so all the atoms of hydrogen will be identical in their size, shape, even the mass. So mass of every hydrogen atom of hydrogen element will have same size, same shape and same masses. Okay. Now third assumption was atoms of different elements have different masses, size and shape, etc. Now the atoms of different elements, that means atoms of element hydrogen, atoms of element nitrogen, atoms of element oxygen will be different in their size, shape and masses. As you can see, hydrogen is smaller, looking smaller than nitrogen and then the oxygen. So they will have different shapes, they will have different size, as well as the masses also are different from each other. So different atoms of different element will have different shape, size and masses. That was the assumption of Dalton's. Okay. Fourth assumption was atoms of same or different elements combine to form compound atoms. So one or more atoms of different elements will combine and form the compound atom. Just I'll tell you students, compound atom was afterwards modified as the name molecules. So at that time during the Dalton's year, the molecules were said as compound atoms. So according to Dalton, atoms of different elements will combine to form compound atoms, like atom of hydrogen will combine with a different element, atom of different element like Cl and form what? HCl. Similarly, atom of element carbon will combine with the two atoms of different element, that is oxygen, and forms carbon dioxide. So that was his assumption. Now the fifth one was atoms combined in the ratio of smaller or simple whole number, such as in 1:2, 2:1, 2:1:3, 1:1, and so on, to form compound atoms or molecules. Okay, so according to Dalton's, whatever the compound atoms or molecules are made, they are in a simple whole number ratio, like 1:1. If you see the carbon dioxide, so carbon dioxide, where carbon contains one atom, carbon is contains one atom, and oxygen are two atoms of oxygen is combined with one atom of carbon. So it is in the ratio of 1:2. Similarly, if you see water, two atoms of hydrogen is combining with one atom of oxygen, so it will be in the ratio of 2:1. Similarly, you can see sulfurous acid, where we can see two atoms of hydrogen is combining with one atom of sulfur and three atoms of oxygen. So they are in the ratio of 2:1:3. Students, why I am naming compound atoms? These are actually compound atom means molecule, but during the Dalton's atomic theory was given, that time molecules were named actually compound atoms. That's why I have written here compound atoms. Okay. Now sixth postulate was atoms of two elements combine in different ratio to form more than one compound. Okay, so when the atoms of two elements combine, they will not form just one compound, but they can form two or more compound also. Just we will understand by the example. If you have hydrogen atom and if you have a oxygen atom, then you cannot expect the formation of water only by combining hydrogen and oxygen. There may be the formation of hydrogen peroxide. Okay, so when atoms of different element combine, they form different compounds like water in the ratio 2:1, and they can also form hydrogen peroxide, it is H2O2, in the ratio 1:1. Okay, similarly, when we combine atoms of carbon and oxygen, so they can form either they can form carbon monoxide, they can also form carbon dioxide. So carbon monoxide they form, it will be in the ratio of 1:1, and carbon dioxide means it will be in the form of 1:2. Even when you take the sulfur and oxygen combined together, they will form two different compounds like sulfur trioxide SO3 and sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide will be in the ratio 1:3, and sulfur dioxide, as you can see, it will be in the ratio of 1:2. So according to Dalton's, when the atoms of two elements combine, they will give rise to the formation of two or more compounds. Okay. Now seventh assumption was an atom is the smallest particle that take part in a chemical reaction. In other words, whole number rather than fraction of atom take part in the chemical reaction. Okay, so not in the whole number, but the fraction of atoms also can take part in the chemical reaction, because the atom is the smallest particle of any substance. So that was also given by the earlier laws only. Now, so it was based on the law of conservation of mass. This one also, atoms can neither be created nor be destroyed. So that was the eighth postulate of Dalton's atomic theory, and it was based on the law of conservation of mass that was given by the Lavoisier. So these were the postulates or assumptions made by Dalton in 1808. Now we will see the limitation and demerits of Dalton's theory also. So Dalton's atomic theory was not perfect. We saw many demerits in Dalton's atomic theory. Okay, what was the limitation or demerits of Dalton's theory? The first limitation was it could explain the law of chemical combination by weight. Okay, but he failed to explain the law of gaseous volume. Okay, so he did not explain the law of gaseous volume, where equal volume of gases contains equal number of molecules. We will just discuss this also in the later classes. Okay, second is he could not explain why atoms of different elements have different masses, size, etc. So he gave his assumption that different atoms of different elements have different masses, size, and shapes, etc. But he could not explain that scientifically. Okay, now he also could not explain why atoms combine to form molecules. So atoms is the smallest particle of any substance, but why does it combine with the other atoms to form molecule? He was unable to explain that statement also. Okay, now he could not explain the nature of binding force between atoms and molecules. Now when the atoms combine also and form a molecule or a compound, what is the nature of the binding force between them which keep them together to form a single particle, that is a compound. Okay, so he could not explain that also. Now he could not make distinction between the ultimate particle of element or a compound. Okay, so he was unable to explain what is the ultimate particle of an element and what is the ultimate particle of a compound. So that was the demerit, or you can say the limitation, of Dalton's atomic theory. Now we will study that how his theory was also then modified by different scientists, and we got the modern atomic theory, which was actually the modification of Dalton's atomic theory. Okay, so now modern atomic theory. So as I told you, modern atomic theory is the modification of Dalton's atomic theory, and you will see that this theory explains the two laws, that is law of conservation of mass and law of definite proportion, more clearly than the other theory proposed earlier. In modern atomic theory, though this chapter, in this chapter you should not study this topic, but when you see the points which come under this modern atomic theory, you will be more clear about the concept. And keeping these points in mind, we have to study further topics which come under this chapter. So this modern atomic theory, as I told you, it has been proposed by many researches done by different scientists. So what is the first point in this modern atomic theory? Atom is no longer considered to be indivisible. According to Dalton's assumption, atom is indivisible particle, but modern atomic theory says that atom is no longer considered to be indivisible. That means atom is still made up of smaller particles which are called as protons, neutrons and electrons. Okay, so atoms can still be divided into protons, neutrons and electrons. So these terms you have to study in next chapter. We will not go more deep there. Now second is, atoms of same element may have different atomic weight. According to Dalton's theory, it was said that atoms of same element will have same size, shape and masses. But modern atomic theory says that atoms of same element may have different atomic weight, and such type of atoms, different atoms of same element having different atomic weight, are called as isotopes. So a new term has been introduced in modern atomic theory about the isotopes. You should understand what are isotopes. Isotopes are different atoms of same element having different atomic weight. We will just see one example. If you have a hydrogen element, so according to Dalton's law, what did we come to know? That hydrogen element have different, all the atoms, every atoms of hydrogen element will be same in size, shape and masses. But according to modern theory, the hydrogen element have atoms which are having different atomic weight. You can see here it is found that hydrogen element can be found in the surrounding in different atomic weight. Okay, now hydrogen element having a atom which have a atomic weight 1 amu. So there are also atoms of hydrogen which have the atomic weight 2 amu, and there are also hydrogen atom of the element hydrogen which are having the atomic weight 3 mu. Okay, so the atom of hydrogen having 1 amu atomic weight are called as protium. Okay, and hydrogen atom having atomic weight 2 mu, they are called as deuterium, and hydrogen atom having the atomic weight 3 mu are called as tritium. So you can see that a same element, that is hydrogen, have atoms which are having different atomic weight, and such type of atoms are called as what? Isotopes. Okay, so similarly you can see in chlorine also. Chlorine element are also having the atoms having different atomic mass weight. Like chlorine atom can be in the form of atomic weight 35 mu, and same chlorine element having the chlorine atom atomic weight 37 mu. So these type of the atoms of same element having different in their atomic weight are called as isotopes. So if you are asked what are the isotopes of hydrogen, then you should say, now different isotopes of hydrogen are protium, deuterium and tritium. And what are the different isotopes of chlorine? So you should write chlorine having 35 mu and 37 mu atomic weight. Okay, now according to third postulate of modern atomic theory, atoms of different element may have same atomic weight. So again, according to Dalton's theory, atoms of different elements will have different atomic weight, shape and size, as we studied before, that hydrogen atom will have a different size, shape and mass and weight, then chlorine, then hydrogen, then helium, then lithium, then oxygen will have, oxygen element have the atoms having different atomic weight, masses and size. But modern atomic theory says that different elements having the atoms can have same atomic weight, and such type of atoms of different elements having same atomic weight are called as isobars. We will just see the example. For example, calcium is an element and it has the atom having atomic weight 40 mu, and you will see the argon. So argon is also an element, but if you see the atomic weight of argon, it is 40 mu. So you can see here that different element are having same atomic, having the atom having same atomic weight. So such atoms of different element having same atomic weight are called as isobars. Okay, so here also you can see it is just a modification of Dalton's theory. Okay, now so if you are asked what are isobars, so you should write isobars are the atoms of different elements having same atomic weight. Okay, and you can give one example also of calcium and argon. Now fourth is the ratio in which different elements combine with one another may be fixed but may not be in simple ratio. According to Dalton's theory, the ratio in which different elements combine to form the compound atom, molecules, etc., they are fixed and they will be in simple whole number ratio. But modern atomic theory discards that concept and says that they may not be in simple ratio. So for that they have given the example of sugar. If you see sugar, so chemical composition of sugar is C12 H22 and O11. That means sugar is made up of 3 different elements, that is carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, in the ratio of 12:22:1, and it is not at all a simple ratio. That's why the modern atomic theory says that the ratio in which different elements combine with one another may be fixed but may not be in simple ratio. Okay. Now, fifth is, atom is the smallest particle that take part in the chemical reaction. So it was just as that of Dalton's theory only. According to modern atomic theory also, atom is the smallest particle that take part in chemical reaction. It is said that though atoms is divided into proton, neutrons and electrons, but in a molecule or a compound, atom is the smallest particle, okay, that take part in the chemical reaction. Now, sixth is, atom is no longer indestructible. Okay, as it was said before that atom is indestructible, but according to modern atomic theory, atom is no longer indestructible. That means the one atom can be changed into another atom by bombardment with different rays. Okay, and actually what is done, it is actually is seen in nuclear reaction. So by transmutation, just we can process of transmutation, we can say that atom is destructible. What is transmutation? It is a process of interconversion of elements through changes in the atomic nuclei. So when there is a process in which atomic nuclei of an element is changed and can be converted into different elements. For example, nitrogen can be changed into oxygen atom by bombardment with alpha. This is what? Alpha rays. Okay. So we have to go with the process called as nuclear reaction. In that we can see that atom is destructible. Okay. Now, seventh point is, mass can be changed into energy. So according to the law of conservation of mass, it was said that mass is conserved. So it is absolutely right. In small laboratories or in normal chemical reaction, we see that the mass of the chemical compound is almost conserved. But during nuclear reaction, mass can be changed into energy. Some amount of mass can be changed into energy. Okay. Now, eighth is, an atom is the smallest particle of an element. There is no doubt that take part in the chemical reaction. But it may or may not be capable of independent existence. What do you mean by independent existence? That means an atom can independently take part in the chemical reaction or cannot be able to take part independently in the chemical reaction. Okay, it depends. But if you see a molecule is also a smallest particle of an element or a compound that take part in chemical reaction and which is capable of independent existence. That means a molecule is also, according to modern atomic theory, a molecule is also said as the smallest particle of any element or a compound that can independently take part in a chemical reaction. Always. Okay. So we will study more about atoms and molecules in our next topic. So that was about the modern atom theory, and this concepts of the atomic theory somehow clears the concept of structure of atoms. Okay. Now we will have next topic, that is atoms. So earlier I just discussed atoms are the smallest particle of an element which can take part in a chemical reaction, and it may or may not be capable of independent existence. How it is so, we will understand by different examples later. Okay. Now it is very, very small, very tiny particle that cannot be seen or isolated. Isolated means cannot be separated. Okay, and if you in aggregate, if you gather several thousands of atoms also, it cannot be seen. So by that you can just think of atoms are so tiny in size. If you see the diameter of an element, it is about 1 into 10 to power of minus 9 meters. That is 1 nanometer in size. So you have to study relative size of different atoms, molecules and the things. We will just see radii in meter. It is given of different examples, like atoms of hydrogen. It has 10 to power of minus 10 meter radii. Okay. Then molecule of water, H2O. It has 10 to power minus 9 meter. Then molecule of hemoglobin, 10 to power of minus 8 meter. Then grains of sand, 10 to power of minus 4 meter. Okay. And then ant radii is how much? 10 to power minus 2 meter. And then watermelon is 10 to power of minus 1 meter. So this is about the relative size. You should just know. Okay. So now John Dalton's used pictorial symbols to represent the elements during his days. Okay. So we will just see what are the representation of elements in pictorial symbol, in the form of pictorial symbols, that was given by John Dalton's during those days. Okay. We will just see, this is the symbol of hydrogen, then phosphorus, copper, gold, then carbon, sulfur, this is lead, this is platina, which was called as platinum afterwards. Then what? Oxygen. Carbon is like this, it has shades. Okay. Then iron, sulfur, mercury. So it was like that. So later now we will see different elements were named in different languages. Like in Greek, the name of the elements were given by different words in different languages, like Greek or we have Latin and different other languages. And some of the elements were named or derived from where they have been isolated, from which part of the substance they have been isolated. And afterwards, nowadays IUPAC, that is International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, approves the name of the elements nowadays. So all that we will just study in our next topic. Okay. Now we will see just the solved questions of the homework assessment given to you last class. First is state the second law of chemical combination. First you should write the name of the second law. That is very important. What is the second law? Law of constant composition or definite proportion. Now state means you have to write the statement. You have to state the law of chemical combination, second law. So what is the statement given by the second law of chemical combination? That is law of constant composition or definite proportion. This law states that the chemical compound is found to be made up of same element combined together in a fixed proportion by mass. This is just the statement you have to write. You can give just example also. Carbon and oxygen are combined together in the same fixed ratio of 12:32 or 3:8 by weight. Just as an example you can write. Okay. Now second is hydrogen and oxygen combine in a ratio of 1:8 by mass to form water. Okay. Then what mass of oxygen gas would be required to react completely with 3 grams of hydrogen gas? So here it is asking the mass of oxygen which should combine with the 3 gram of hydrogen atom to form water, and that the ratio should be fixed, that is 1:8 ratio. So as earlier I told you, by two ways you can just solve this question. First you can directly write whatever is given. 1:8 ratio by mass means hydrogen and oxygen are in 1:8 by mass means 1 gram of hydrogen combines with 8 grams of oxygen, okay, by mass. So it's, you can just write it like that only. 1 gram of hydrogen combines with 8 gram of oxygen to form water, because it is in the ratio of 1:8 by mass. So how much 3 grams of hydrogen gas is required to combine with how much mass of oxygen? So like that only you can write 3 grams. So 3 grams of hydrogen combines with, how we will do 3 into 8 divided by 1. So 3 into 8 gram divided by 1 gram of oxygen. So you will get total 24 grams of oxygen. Okay. So 3 grams of hydrogen combines with 24 grams of oxygen to form water. One more way is there, just to write the ratio. Hydrogen oxygen ratio is how much? 1:8. And it is asking 3 gram of hydrogen is required to combine with how much of oxygen. So you can just write, it is asking the mass of oxygen, so we have just assume it as x. So 1:8, so 3 is to how much? Just multiply it by 3 in both the sides. So you'll get 3 is to 24. So 24 grams of oxygen is required to combine with 3 grams of hydrogen to form water. So like that also you can just, okay, 24 grams of oxygen, okay, is required. So like that also, in either of the ways you can just solve this question. Okay. Third is, copper oxide was prepared by following methods. Two methods are given, two experiments here. 1.45 gram of copper when strongly heated in the current of air yielded 1.83 gram of copper oxide. That means 1.4 gram of copper is contained in 1.83 gram of copper oxide. Okay, or you can say 1.8 of copper oxide contains 1.45 gram of copper. Okay. Now, in second experiment, 1.75 gram of copper metal were dissolved in nitric acid, and we get the residual copper nitrate, which again igniting yielded 2.19 gram of copper oxide. So finally, how much we got copper oxide? 2.19 of copper oxide as product we get. So by this experiment, we can just say 2.19 gram of copper oxide contains how much of copper? 1.7 gram of copper. Now what is asking? Show that the given data illustrate the law of constant composition. Okay. So basically what is given here, you should know first. So here we have to illustrate the law of constant composition. So we have to take one substance and we have to just show or prove that the mass of that component of a chemical substance is constant or fixed. Okay, so by these two experiments we can just it's just given that 1.38 gram of copper oxide contains 1.4 gram of copper. So in 100 gram of this chemical compound copper oxide, we can just calculate the gram of or mass of copper. Similarly, in second experiment, 2.19 gram of copper oxide contains 1.75 gram of copper. So in 100 gram also we can just calculate, in 100 gram of copper oxide contains how much gram of copper in it, and we will just tally that the amount of copper in both the mass of the copper in both the experiments are same or not. If the amount is same, we will just can confirm that law of chemical composition. Okay, so we will just write, as I just told you, 1.83 gram of copper oxide contains 1.45 gram of copper. So 100 gram of copper oxide contains, like that you have to do 100 gram into 1.45 gram divided by 1.833 gram. This the up one will go down divided by, okay, of copper. So you will get 79.23 gram of copper. That means 100 gram of copper oxide contains 79.23 gram of copper in first experiment. Okay, then we will see second experiment. 2.19 gram of copper oxide contains 1.7 gram of 75 gram of copper. It is given in the question only. Now we have to calculate in 100 gram of copper oxide contains how much gram of copper. So we will do in the same way, 100 into 1.75 divided by 2.19 gram of copper. So here also it's coming 79.90 gram of copper. In first case the mass of copper is 79.23 and second case the mass is 79.90 gram of copper. So here you can see that mass is nearly or almost the same. So here we can see the percentage of copper in both the experiment, percentage of mass of the copper in both the experiment is nearly the same. Hence the above calculations or data illustrate the law of constant composition. Now few students have doubt, like in point wise there is difference, ma'am. So many students have asked me. So student, it is because if we are doing 2 or 3 steps experiment, or if we are doing in large amount, okay, then what happens is during the isolation of certain chemicals or certain components, it is usually seen that the isolation do not go perfect. Like by isolating the substance or the component, some of the components may fall to the table, on the table, or it can happen that during isolation we have not done the experiment perfectly, so will not get the perfect amount or 100% amount of that component. It can happen. Or during experiment it may happen ki during heating or something, some of the components get burnt, okay. So it some of the imperfection we can just have during the experiment is going on. So because of those reasons there is some difference in masses in point wise, okay. So we have to just ignore the point wise differences and we have to just see the nearby mass whether it is same or not. So here we can see the mass is nearly same only, almost same. So we can just prove here the above data is with the law of constant composition. Okay, so that was about their homework question answer. Thank you.